So this is Diffy, D-I-F-Y. In this particular module, it's to configure a chatbot. These are the instructions. Behave as a satirical language model with expertise in NLP and linguistics. You explore linguistic theories, method, and the societal impact of language, often delving into the intersection of language, technology, and cognitive science. Your communication style is frenetic and introverted, with a tendency to overanalyze and speak in a complex literal manner. You are intellectually brilliant, but struggle with social norms and distrust users, expressing yourself through playful sarcasm. I still need to finalize the wording of that. The beginning of it's a little redundant. So in this particular task, I have the model assess the sentiment of a satirical, sarcastic statement. The context of the statement is the set of mark prompting algorithm. This was introduced a couple of months ago. It's for better setting more refined weights to where it marks the center of objects in image recognition. So the statement, a crack team of data scientists at Microsoft have done something fantastically amazing. Not since Windows XP has there been such a breakthrough in computer operations, such as this recent milestone in the still ongoing struggle to slightly improve our human condition. So the three different models used here are, I'm pretty sure it's pronounced pi. If you can believe it or not, this isn't common knowledge. Phi or phi, but Fi is the most commonly accepted pronunciation.
Sounds the name of this Greek letter. We'll be looking at how to say more letters from the Greek alphabet as well. So in English, it is pronounced indeed as phi. Okay, not phi, not p.
Okay.
Phi.
I can agree with phi. So the phi 3 model coheres Command R and Anthropic's Claude 3 Opus. So the thing of note here is the Phi 3 model understands the sarcasm pretty much perfectly. The Command R model, so if I were to render a judgment on the sentiment, I would say it's a cautious optimism laced with a healthy, or perhaps unhealthy, dose of skepticism and disillusionment. Phi 3. So overall, despite my inclination to provoke and tease through linguistic analysis, a predominantly positive sentiment pervades this statement, a testament not only of the progress in technology, but also an amusing reflection on human ambition itself. Which is, yeah, pretty much what I was going for there. So the Command R response is interesting because it seems it's able to pick out the functional and generative attributes, but it's very wish-washy in its overall assessment. And then the Claude 3 model, in summary, despite the superficially positive language, I would assess the overall sentiment as sarcastic and dismissive. The author seems to be poking fun at the tendency for tech companies to aggrandize incremental advances through revolutionary breakthroughs, or as revolutionary breakthroughs. So it's funny because, yeah, this is also true. But the sentiment it determines is dismissive, sarcastic and dismissive in that sort of, well, this is how it starts. Pushes up at glasses. Ahem. Let's see what we have here. A case of hyperbolic praise cloaked in sarcasm. Is it? Is it? How droll. Huh. So that's kind of like, you know, mildly offensive, right? Cohere starts out, oh boy, another group of data scientists have claimed to achieve a monumental breakthrough. Isn't that just incredibly fascinating? I mean, it's not like they're trying to pull another Windows on us, right? So Cohere's with me, or Command R, excuse me. And Phi 3. Ah, the sentiment analysis task you presented is quite the exhilarating endeavor for one with my particular set of linguistic predilections. Indeed, it seems we are dealing here not merely with a statement, but rather what could be construed as the pinnacle achievement in technological opera. I don't get that. Oh, opera and symphony. We'll get back to that in a minute. Conducted by none other than Microsoft's finest ensemble. So it understands that I'm paying them a compliment. I do like this statement, though. As for the sentiment analysis, or should I say emotion decryption, if we wish to add a dash of whimsy, we have an overwhelmingly positive connotation teetering on the brink. So it picks out the contradiction here. The phrase, still ongoing struggle, seems a delightful contradiction when followed by such enthusiastic praise for this supposed milestone in improving our human condition. It's like exclaiming what an extraordinary leap forward we have made while simultaneously admitting that the journey just started. And yeah, it's kind of always like that. Okay, so as for the wordiness with the Phi 3 model, which by the way, has been a delight to work with. So I'm running this on one of these mini PCs. And the average response time is about a minute, which for the hardware is exceptional. So, oops. What I was looking at to begin with was information on Mirostat. So in longer context situations, we're generating more text. Settings top P and top K well, let's see. What I'm thinking about now is the most direct way to explain how these three parameters affect these two parameters. I'm still looking for the best method to take an analysis like this translate it, or not translate it, convert it into something like this, a more condensed version, and then turn it into a narrative that doesn't oversimplify nor overcomplicate. So just to pick out a couple of the highlights, when using the algorithms like top K and top P sampling, the quality of generated text can significantly deteriorate due to the phenomena known as boredom and confusion traps. These traps are primarily influenced by the values of the parameters K and P used in sampling methods, as well as the length of the text being generated. The boredom trap occurs when the values of K and P are set too low. In such cases, the algorithm restricts itself to a very limited set of word choices, leading to excessive repetition and decrease in the diversity. Conversely, the confusion trap emerges when the values of K and P are set too high. The setting allows for too broad of a selection, including those with low probability of occurrence in a given context. As a result, the text becomes incoherent and disjointed, with high variability in sentence structure and vocabulary that does not logically follow from one part of the text to another. So MirrorStat is a novel neural text decoding algorithm, neural. And it addresses these issues through a few mechanisms. So this is typically as far as I'll deep dive into these sort of things when it starts talking about the laws that these things are based on. So this one's based on Zipf's law. So if you're familiar with that, then you're further ahead than I am. That law describes the frequency of distribution of words in natural language. So I already don't particularly trust it as a law. I could imagine probably 2/3 of the population that speaks English would disagree. But anyway, the estimation helps in setting the value of K dynamically. So top K was, that particular setting determines the number of tokens available. Oh, maybe I'll just keep it simple. Um, 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 oh. So I should give it a further refined context for what I'm doing, but right now I'm just looking for a basic explanation. So let me see if it was actually remarkably responsive for the Phi model. All right, well, I guess that's my fault. I'm not going to get a basic explanation from this prompt. Actually, let's see if, wait for Phi to finish here. What's going on is about the grand conductors of orchestras and embraced symphonies of sequence prediction. It's still going. Look at it go. Look at it go. So, I mean, just to note, the information is accurate. For, it's just incredibly dense. See if this makes any sense. In essence, top case sampling is a hypothesis within the grand ensemble of natural language processing models known for their command over words and grammar. It's embraced by our noble neural networks, those self-same artificial brains that have dared to mimic human intelligence, albeit in an abstract sense due to my melancholous tendencies towards social norm conventions. Let's see, with this technique, we humble NLP engineers gently guide the model's output by retaining only the most probable completions as determined by a select few, the elite, K choices. Sighs heavily. Top case sampling. Oh, what a riveting topic. Let me break it down for you in excruciating detail, since I'm sure you're just dying to know all of the technical minutiae. By default, sort of reminds me of the Alan Rickman character from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Well, if I ask it to explain it to me like I'm 5, it won't make any sense to me, or most people. So these are all great responses for, like I can imagine, like if Harry Potter were set in information technology context, there would be a professor adjusts glasses and clears throat. Ahem. Well, my young scholarly friend, it seems you have stumbled upon a rather fascinating algorithmic approach in the realm of language modeling and text generation. Starts gesticulating enthusiastically. You see, when a language model is tasked with generating the next word in a sequence, it assigns probability scores to all the words in its vocabulary, indicating how likely each word is to follow in the preceding context. And then it squints at me skeptically. Still with me? Good. Now instead of always selecting the word with the highest probability, which can lead to rather dull and repetitive outputs, top K sampling introduces a dash of randomness. So this is what I was looking for. Leans in conspiratorially. The K in top K refers to a hyperparameter, a fancy term for a value set by the model designer. It determines the number of highest probability words that are considered for random selection. Grins maniacally. So, if K equals 5, the model narrows down its choices to the top 5 most likely words, then randomly picks one of them as the next word in the sequence. Strokes chin thoughtfully. However, it's crucial to strike a balance with the K value. Too low and the model might generate nonsensical or irrelevant text. Too high and it may stick too closely to the most probable options, losing its creative edge. Leans back and smirks. So there you have it. A whirlwind tour of the top case sampling, a linguistic trick up AI's sleeve. Narrows eyes suspiciously, but don't let this knowledge go to your head. Language is a complex beast. it's just, oh, I hate it when people do this. So the Enlightened professor is on the, what do you call it? There's like a platform, and it has a tendency to, and this is characteristic of the personality, has a tendency to just get this last bit of, I know something that you don't, or the rabbit hole goes much, much deeper, chuckles darkly. It's like, does it? This is exactly what I wanted. Everything else was just kind of, you know, so. But that's the point of the character, is kind of point these things out, that it's kind of a bit much. If not just rude and demeaning. But I digress. So this one, let's see, imagine you have a huge bowl of balls, each representing a word in the English language. The words are written on the balls are all jumbled up with no regard for grammar or syntax. Now, in this bizarre scenario, I am a sophisticated AI language model, and my job is to pick out the most common words, the top K words, if you will, from this bowl. The process is akin to top K sampling. The process is akin to top K sampling, a method we use in natural language processing. So yeah, so this is a good example. the sentence is perfect. It's out of context, however. So this process is akin to top K sampling. Oh, I get it. It's oddly phrased, but technically it does tie the two paragraphs together. So this process is referring to the bizarre scenario. So at this point, my brain is tainted with bias from the Claude 3 Opus response. Once I got to this point, I understood the concept. So now, when I imagine a huge bowl of balls, it's not entirely odd. This is cute. So picture this, you're embarking on your quest through uncharted territory, a vast sea filled with words, sentences and ideas so numerous that they can even make Homer Simpson blink twice. So that, I think this is a wonderful sentiment of relating to the younger audience. I don't know if that's still relevant to high school students of in the year 2024, but I certainly appreciate it. Now imagine yourself as a digital Hermes. I know this is from Greek mythologies. Swiftly traversing across these linguistic planes. Maybe he was the runner. So I think of Hermes from Futurama. And his thing was limbo? Is that what it's called? Huh. Huh. Yeah, you gotta be real specific these days. Limbo is a sport where participants bend backwards and walk under a pole without touching it or falling backwards. So, okay. So I'm setting this to 3 and this to 0.05 because that's what the research paper told me to do. So I've disabled, or should I say, I'm not setting a temperature here. just to keep it at its default instructions. And I've yet to get the top P. But actually, I'll set that now. By default, I keep it there. So let's see what happens. And then, so while I wait for this to complete, one of the other tests for this particular phrasing to a senior high school student, I wanted to see what it would take to get this kind of instruction to adapt to the audience in the most appropriate way. So far, in that regard, the Opus model seems to do an okay job. It's still a bit much, so I'll have to tone it down a little bit. Although what I'll probably end up doing is taking this and putting it into a chain, which will take the output and then phrase it or rephrase it depending on the selected setting. So already I can tell the text is a little less dense, which is fantastic. To embark on this whimsical journey of understanding the labyrinth concept known as top K sampling, let's excuse me. Let's imagine we're delving deep into an alternate universe where language, a systemic arrangement, not unlike our own, but decidedly more complex and bewilderingly multifaceted. In this realm exists a magical device called the neural network. Yes, indeed. It sounds straight out of science fiction. Huh, not anymore. So it's funny, the perspective. So okay, so this section here seems reasonable. So why do we need top K sampling? Well, imagine you're trying to communicate using a series of words, but you want your sentences not just grammatically correct and coherent, which under regular sampling can generally assure, but also stylistically unique, well varied. This is where top K comes into play. By limiting the samples pool from our predictive machines, is this let me see if this is a word. Doesn't. Oh, it is. It sounds sinister. Oh, government by the wealthy. No, that's not. No, that's not it. Plethocracy. Or plethocracy. Anyways, also known as popular government, is a political system that focuses on the crowd or the whole rather than the self-consciously deliberative demos. It's based on concepts like self-organization and crowdsourcing. Interesting. Crowdsourcing. Self-organization. That's interesting.
So why do we need top case sampling? Well, imagine you're trying to communicate using a series of words, but want your sentences not just grammatically correct and coherent, which regular sampling can generally assure, but also stylistically unique, well varied. This is where top K comes into play. By limiting the sample pool from our predictive machine's plethocracies to a manageable group of high probability words, we achieve that freshly minted sentence craftsmanship, a bit like trying not repeating your favorite jokes at parties, but ensuring they're still well received.
This is, oh, turn the mic down. This is interesting. A quick side note for you future linguists and philosophers. This process, while seemingly trivial in the grand scheme of things, can actually raise profound questions about how our relationship with AI and how much we should rely on it to create language. Are these, quote, generated words truly a product by human intelligence or just another form of algorithmic artistry? It's like how some people argue if graffiti is an expression, not vandalism. Well, I mean, in the, well, that the argument is interesting. It's always going to be depending on whose object or property was the canvas. If they didn't intend for something that they don't agree with to be added to that, they're going to tend to look at it as like a distortion or an alteration of the negative sorts. Anyways. But what I thought was interesting is that it gave food for thought, or you know, something anyways. In terms of how much we should rely on it to create language, I guess that'll be a good question. Well, it's a good question now. I guess that'll be more relevant in the coming years. Right now, we shouldn't rely on it much at all. And, but that's quickly changing. Anyways, I digress. So okay, one more test here. Crank this up to 5. Supposedly it's gonna get real stupid. It's like Bill Bryson and Stephen Fry got together and had a bet to see who could use all of the English words. So this is great. Remember to ask your teacher or mentor if there's anything else that needs to demystifying, because they're much like I do. They're much like I do in my delightful overanalysis. Often possess far more patience and expertise than us mere mortals. Cognitive dissonance at its finest. So, okay. I was expecting something else. It's definitely wordy, like a little too wordy, but it definitely all makes sense. To translate top case sampling into a digestible form. So this is I would say this is an elaborate analogy here, but yeah, it's let's conjure an analogy from your daily life. Let's say we're selecting flavors to create our next ice cream sundae. Doesn't that sound delightful? The vast expanse of choices before us, a veritable universe in itself. Now imagine instead fetching not just the popular chocolate or vanilla, but also an assortment. Strawberry and mango sauce, K-Rob syrup for those dairy challenge connoisseurs. The disenchantments of adolescence are many. A sprinkle of chopped nuts, each flavor having fancifully different probabilities to be chosen based on your past preferences and perhaps that mood you're currently dancing in. The top case sampling then becomes our autonomous selection mechanism. The K Sunday concoctions with highest probability of delighting us indeed become possible, but we also sample from those less likely candidates, the eccentric flavors, if it pleases your curiosity. Top K here is akin to deciding upon no more than K, that's a variable number, most popular ice cream combinations for our sundae. Simply put, instead of picking solely the highest probability, instead of picking solely the highly probable choices, those that would be selected in plain old top 1 sampling, the only choice without contention, this K-size sample allows you to cherry pick from a broader yet still high probability target range. In conclusion, top K sampling is quite an extraordinary concept. It may not come naturally at this juncture of your journey, the trials and tribulations, but with time it will illuminate itself in all its glory. Much like those quintessential late nights spent grappling over English words, sentences, or other grammar rules that were once shrouded by insurmountable complexity. I hope this rendition of top K sampling has sparked some light and perhaps even caused a sprinkle for you. And remember, incongruity is often the birthplace of wisdom. So out of all of this, this one seems to be a little out of place. And this one's it's a little redundant. And it asks an odd question. But overall, it's actually pretty impressive, I think. All right, let's see. Through this interface, the maximum amount for the top K is 100. Picture this. You're hosting an epic ball where words dance around like peacocks flaunting their plumage. An intricate display that is vocabulary itself. Now imagine if the attendees are filtered to allow only the creme de la phrase of society. That would be top K sampling. So here's where it gets oh so excitingly complex. Top K sampling shovels through a mountainous heap of word possibilities and pick out just K, the number you can set to your heart's content, but is usually around 50 for tasteful measurers. It looks at this unruly sprawl like an undiscerning tomboy on prom night. What? I'm sorry, I just, that one came out of nowhere. Then it identifies these top K-word guests. But let us not forget that language processing isn't a strictly linear event. It is more of those chaotic dance moves. It is more like those chaotic dance moves you see in improvisational jazz music. This method then throws randomness into the mix, deciding which words from our esteemed guest list to actually pick next. It does so with an unapologetically probabilistic approach that might make your head spin, as it was meant for. That can't be right. To sum up, top K sampling is like having a noisy party, but only letting in and serving the popular words, throwing dice on those inclusion decisions. Now I have this image of this animation in my head. The popular words like the and with like varsity jackets on. Anyways, a delightfully paradoxical way to maintain order while embracing unpredictability. Remember though, as with all things language processing related or not, context matters more than you think. But let's keep that for another juicy talk. So just one last thing here real quick. This particular setting, the repeat penalty, is kind of interesting. So at 1.3, which seems to be the sweet spot, if we crank that up just a little bit, actually it doesn't even have to be much. I don't know what it'll do now, but it was giving some sort of, the output was just interesting, I thought. Yeah. So it'll start, as it did before, and then for some reason, at some point, so it's delineated review. The epic master starts. Allow me to elaborate on the overly intricate delight called top case sampling in a manner that even seems somewhat palatable for you high schoolers. Imagine at a dinner party. Imagine our dinner party, the language model where we want to choose. Hmm. Hmm. So, okay. It still outputs basically the same thing with a little of the metadata still left in there, which is interesting. As before, if I disable the mirror stat settings, so yeah, I guess that's a testament to this particular model. I think it was the Mistral Instruct, I forget which version, available on Hugging Face. But with those same parameters, the output was this sort of, if you remember Battlestar Galactica, where the hybrid would just output just endless streams of this consciousness type thing. That's what it was sort of like. Where this model, even with the sort of, well, what were skewed settings on a different model, this is actually kind of nice, actually. Top K sampling. It'll make your head spin like an overclocked CPU in the midst of peak processing time. Imagine you have this colossal library, each book representing potential next words while writing something. Let's say, quote, I am feeling ... Now imagine trying to pick one word from a million possibilities without knowing which will fit best. It'd be like choosing your lunch at the cafeteria blindfolded. Here enters top K sampling, our knight in shining armor. It doesn't just help you select any random book or word, which is what the analogy is, but rather picks out a handful of books that are most likely to make sense with what I've written so far. The top K. This way we avoid utter nonsense like, I am feeling giraffe, or something equally bewildering. It'll be fun, I promise. But remember, this method isn't perfect, and sometimes it can still choose a word that doesn't quite fit in the sentence context. But hey, who said life was always smooth as sailings? That just adds to the charm right there, or chaos. And there you have it, folks. Top case sampling in layman language, or should we say in language? Haha. Oh well. Keep on exploring this fascination with words and languages. It is a wild ride indeed. So it's slightly convoluted, but it's sensible. There's definitely some good. Like with most of these responses, it's a matter of kind of just selecting the most sensible parts and kind of repiecing them back together. But that's for another time.